Hi guys, and welcome back to another lyrical breakdown with me, your lady friend, Bonnie. I'm very hot today. How are you? It's been very hot this last week in Canada, or at least in Montreal. I don't know about the rest of Canada, but it's been like a heat wave, and so it's been like 48 degrees, 45 degrees, so that's about like 100 degrees Fahrenheit for all you Americans. If you guys are watching from America, if you're not, tell me where you're watching from. Love to like know who my fans are and where you're from, and really get to connect with you. So yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are resting in AC. I don't have any, so I'm just like melting. But that's enough about me. We've got a song to break down this week. Don't forget, if you guys want to see any sort of songs that I'm, can potentially break down, definitely leave them, any suggestions in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. You guys know what to do. So this week we're doing a little bit, I'm doing a little bit of a newer song. This came out actually just last month, so just a couple of weeks ago, and it is Everything by NAS and also The-Dream and Kanye West. So this song is actually, it's pretty intense. There's a lot kind of to go through it. There's a lot of messages. It's pretty interesting and kind of, a new way to look at things a little bit. We're getting kind of a different feel from kind of all the artists as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So this comes off of Nas's new album, Nasir, which came out on June 15th, 2018. This song that I'm looking at in particular, Everything, is 7 minutes and 32 seconds. It's produced by Kanye West, Mike Dean, Benny Blanco, Kashmir Cat, and Plain Pat. I don't know who half those guys are. They have some interesting names. I suppose I could have looked into that at some point. That's on me. But yeah, interesting people. I suppose I'll look them up after, which I guess is too late by then. But whatever. So yeah, let's get into this. Yeah, let's have a listen to it right now.
Who was mob-minded, future Marcialago driving to Lambo's got average on me.
All right, so it starts off with kind of like the pre-chorus, and this is by Kanye and The-Dream. It's you'll live and you'll learn, see, cause you've never been the same as anyone else. Don't think the same as everyone else. You'll love and you'll learn, you'll see, you'll never conclude with anyone else. Don't think you're the same as everyone else. So, it's a pretty good message there. Kanye is basically like, spouting some truth in this, pre-chorus that he's doing. He's kind of telling like younger kids, the next generation, kind of like what's to come and what, that you live and you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn better. Kanye is a prime example of that. He gets better and he makes mistakes and then he comes back and that's it, like he's just doing what he does. And you can't compare yourself to anybody else because nobody else is you. So there is no comparison. And, everything that you're doing is the right thing because you're you. And everything you do is the right thing for you. It may be like a misstep, but it's going to guide you in the right place. And, by making a mistake, you're going to learn and you're going to be on an even better path than you were before. So, that's basically what it is. Don't conform to social norms just because other sheeple kind of say so or tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Like, that's what they should and shouldn't be doing. It isn't necessarily what you should and shouldn't be doing. So yeah, he's basically just saying that you're unique and special, and knowing that is basically a smart way to look at life, and knowing that is a way to succeed, I guess. So now we have just the regular old chorus. If I had everything, I could change anything. If I could change anything, anything, I would change everything. Oh, yeah. So he's singing, if he had everything. And he has a lovely voice in this as well. I just wanted to say that as well. It's very interesting. It doesn't seem like Kanye, but it is. It's very emotional and raw. So he's singing as if, everything in the world... And, if he had everything in the world and he had like godlike power, kind of like Kanye, sometimes wishes that he had, that he wouldn't just make one change to his life. He'd change everything about, his world and like everybody's world, and kind of like the way humanity evolved, I think. It seems like he's seen maybe like, maybe one too many like news articles or stories, about like horrible things that are happening, and maybe he's been a witness to some crazy stuff that's been going on. And he's kind of questioning why life is like this. Why are people so cruel and violent and hateful? And, why are people like that? You just kind of, why can't we just get along? That's basically what it is. And he's just kind of like saying like, screw that. Like, let's start again. If I could change the entire world, there wouldn't be any of that maybe, it sucks. It's not fun to have that kind of stuff. You just want a world of love and peace and happiness. You don't want like misery. That's not fun for anybody. I think that's it. He basically just doesn't want any like the hate, the discrimination, all like that kind of normal stuff, unfortunately, that happens. Okay, and then we have the post-chorus. Dark boy, don't you cry. There's too much left in those. There's too much life left in those eyes. Don't you let that face go waterfall. Don't you learn to love your scars and all. Dark boy, don't you die. They're just human, let them lie. You just know your world and speak your truth. Let them come to you, for you'll love in your heart. You'll see, 'cause you've never been the same as anyone else. Don't think you're the same as everyone else. This is your call. There are no wrongs. See, you'll never conclude with anyone else. Don't think you're the same. Don't think the same as everyone else. So, right away he's touching on skin color. He's saying dark boy. Obviously he's, so the boy is dark skinned. And I think that he's speaking to children and to boys maybe in particular who are looking for maybe role models, or maybe, boys I think are more likely to kind of play that macho thing, and, they're trying to be like gang members and, kind of prove that they're tough. A lot of guys, tend to do that. And I'm not saying that girls do that, but, don't do that, because they do. But I think that in the majority of the time it is men that, men and boys, I guess, the teenagers and stuff, that still, do engage in that kind of behavior. And it's not always necessary. Just, you do you. So they're speaking to like the children, like I said, of the next generation. And even though there was all this like trouble and discrimination against, black people, and, maybe against this particular child, he's saying like, you've been discriminated against, but so has like your entire race, basically. It's just been nonstop. Like, he's just kind of pointing out like, this is an issue. I think that's what it is. But he's also saying that, even though all this like discrimination and hate again exists, like, don't let that stand in your way and stop you from enjoying, life. Like, don't let that like get you down. I think that that's what he's trying to say. And then he says, learn to love, learn from the scars that you have. And I think that he's also talking about like physical and mental pain in that case, like those kind of scars that hurt you and little things that kind of stick with you forever because they're kind of a part of you, and they may have damaged you, or, you may have like felt like hate or discrimination, but you've had the chance to heal, and, maybe is, your heart and your mind isn't maybe as it once was. It's not as innocent and pure as it once was, and you've been hurt, but you're going to be fine. You're going to get over it, and you're going to be fine. So don't die, don't give up. They're human. The haters, they all have their problems too. Trust me. Yeah, so that's it. Like, don't even like mind them, just stay true to yourself and never mind like the rest of the people. Like, if you speak truth and you stay true to who and what you are and what you believe, then, good things will come to you, and, you're unique and you're special. And, I think like everything you do is a step in the right direction because it's your life. And that's it. He's just saying, like, don't be like everybody else. Don't be like the majority. Be unique. Be different. And like in being that, weirdness, that contributes to being who you are, just that alone is going to like give you strength, and like it'll help you find your place in the world. So let's keep going. And then we have the chorus again. So like I said, the song hasn't even really started yet. It's just been like pre-choruses and choruses. Kanye again, if I had everything, I could change anything. I could change anything. If I change anything, I mean anything. I would change everything. Oh, yeah. So everything's a mess. He's basically, he basically wants to start over. And it's personal, I think, in your life, like you want to kind of just start over in your own life. But I think he's also kind of looking at society and like humanity and like what's happening to the world and maybe the environment and different things. And he's just saying, you know what, let's just start all over again. Like, I think that's idealistic, but not necessarily going to ever happen. But yeah, we could definitely make changes to make things better every day. And I think that's, everybody can do that. I think, why not? If you can go out tomorrow and do like a random act of kindness or whatever, and then just, say something positive to someone that you maybe necessarily wouldn't say, or like, if you normally are like quick on like the hate speech or like hate comments, or like you say negative things like, oh, if you think something negative, maybe try not to, and maybe turn it into a positive, or try to find something positive about someone in your life that you find a lot of negative aspects for. So, I mean, if you can make that little bit of a change, then that's, everybody can do that, and then it helps to make things better. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling. I'm giving you like a lesson on morality, but let's get into verse 1 with NAS, finally. So, okay, I'm excited for verse 1. So, when the media slings mud, we use it to build huts. Irrefutable facts, merciful, beautiful black, beloved brother, you fail to embarrass him, harassing him. To my life, your life pales in comparison. So go write whatever blog, messiness is not ever the god. Do what's necessary, I'm never worried. Listen, vultures, I've been shackled by Western culture. You convinced most of my people to live off emotion. So when the news reports and media start talking crap about them, and by them, I mean, particularly black people in America, I think that's basically, that's where he's from. That's what he's talking about. That's who he is. So he's kind of just saying, he's passing on his message to other kids like him. So he's just kind of saying, like, they all talk crap about him, but he doesn't care. He kind of uses that, like, negativity and, like, kind of like attacks and like bad things that people are saying about them to grow and to build something better, and to, like he says, we use it to build huts. And I think like huts is kind of going back to, obviously a more simplistic time, but it may be in relation to the kind of like African roots that he has as well, which we kind of tie into, which ties into this as well at the very end. And I think it's also getting something good out of something bad. I think that's what it is. And he's building something with a solid foundation, and he's, a home, a hut, or whatever you do, make something good out of it. So there are facts to back everything up, he says. And like another guy, and like I think maybe another black guy was hating on him and trying to expose him, but he was having none of it. Like he was like, whatever. I think that he's kind of also talking about like people who, he talks about people who do blogs, probably people like me who review and break down things, and like, we just look at, his art and just try to understand what, he's trying to say, what he's doing, who he's aiming at, and none of us are experts. We're all just trying to get, messages out of everything. And, art is up into the interpretation of the person listening to it. I think that's what it is. And I think that also we have to listen to what the person was trying to say, and then find like that kind of halfway point where we can both kind of understand the message, if that makes sense. So anyways, so this guy was trying to like expose him or embarrass him, who was writing a blog. But he's just basically like, whatever, your life is so uninspiring and so boring that, you have to write this about me. Like, whatever. Like, he's just, it's off his shoulder. He doesn't care. So go on and do whatever you want, because, like I said, he doesn't care. All of the people that, like, feed off of his success, like, he's not bothered by that. Like, there's just going to always be people that are like that. And he's also saying that he's a victim of Western culture, and that, and he's, I think, criticizing white people, and I think in the Western societies, and their like relation to black people, and like their misunderstanding of a lot of things, I think, and so like he's just trying to point out that, and to kind of criticize everybody and try to get everyone kind of on the same page. I mean, it's absolutely fine. Like obviously, like there's a lot of like discrimination and a lot of, like I said, misunderstanding between the two cultures in Western culture. So everyone's trying to like make things work, but there's such a clash of backgrounds, I guess. And like kind of how their culture, the Black culture, and their heritages are often ignored. Yeah, and like everyone just kind of like builds off of emotions, and it's kind of like poking the bear a little bit, like you want to like try to get them riled up a little bit and kind of like see what they're going to do next. Like, and that's a shitty thing to do, like you shouldn't try to like work people up into starting something that gets them all like hot and bothered just because, I don't know. I don't know why we, and I say we, I'm included in that as well. Like, I'm just trying to figure out why that happens. But obviously I'm trying to learn, right? And with your help, thank you. So let's keep going on to the next part. That's why we competing. Death by the Chrome Barrel. Forgot the secrets. My Kilimanjaro bone marrow's the deepest. You can peep at the comments, but don't fall for that. We want freedom. I'm a scholar, an almanac. People do anything to be involved in everything. Inclusion is a hell of a drug. Some people have everything they probably ever wanted in life and never have enough. So that's why everyone is so like riled up and feeds off of, all of the emotions of everybody. And people keep getting shot, like, death by the Chrome Barrel. So he's just, everyone's just kind of gossiping, when nobody wants to like rat anybody else. So everyone's kind of like keeping their mouth shut and like no one's telling any secrets, but it's not helping anybody. It's only making things worse. Okay, so then Mount Kilimanjaro is in Tanzania. I always mix up Tanzania and Tanzania. So I think it's Tanzania? It's in Tanzania? Woo! Anyways, so he's kind of connecting his roots back to Africa, and maybe that's where he's from. I think that's in Kenya, or why did I just say Kenya? It's in Tanzania. So he's kind of, like I said, connecting his roots back. And very likely, I'm guessing his family came from slaves, or were taken. They weren't slaves, born slaves. They were taken and they were forced to be slaves. So this is still like an issue. This is still something that he's looking back at and saying, like, this is where I came from. Like, I have to remember that. It's a whole new world, I guess. Like, it wasn't, his choice or his family's choice or any of, like, his ancestors' choice to come to America. And so he's just kind of, like, looking at that, like how different his world would have been, I guess. Okay, so he's also saying, like, don't read the hater comments. Don't, as tempting as it may be, don't read the comments because, it's just going to, it's not going to make you feel good. So Black people are still fighting for freedom, and they're smarter and they're more knowledgeable now. Like, that's kind of what he's saying. Like, this is where I'm at. Like, I have, more strength, more knowledge, more power. So people are doing whatever the rest of the majority are doing. And like, that's what he's kind of talking about, the inclusion and how it's like a drug, and like how you want to be a part of it. Like, you don't want to feel like excluded and that you're weird and you're like not one of the whole. But like, being an outlier is a great thing, and not necessarily following what the majority of people do, because the majority of people aren't at the top, right? It's like the 1%, right? So, or the 5% maybe, if you're following that. But yeah, he's just saying, like, do things different. Don't make the same mistakes. Don't do like what everyone else is saying. And then he also talks about, maybe, some people have like everything that they ever wanted and they're still not happy. So I think at that point it's, self-reflection. You have to like feel good with yourself and love yourself and, feel comfortable with yourself, if you have everything or if you have nothing. Like, you need to just, if you're homeless or whether you live in, 12 mansions and whatever, like, you need to know that at the end of the day, like, no matter how you end up, you're comfortable and you're happy with who you are. And I think that's what he's trying to say. Yeah. and they, everybody else who has all this other stuff, they probably just like caved and conformed, and they're not really happy because they're just like everybody else. And everybody else has all these like nice things in their suburban home and their car and blah 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 blah. But that's, that's what some people want, and that's fine, but it's not for everybody. Everybody, right? Then we have the chorus again with Kanye. If I had everything, I could change anything. If I change anything, I mean anything, I would change everything. Oh yeah. So again, same thing, just kind of reminding us of how badly he wishes everything could be better, could be different, and it's just sort of like a fantasy, right? Like it's not, you can't change the way everything was and how the world started and why people believe certain things and why people feel certain things when there isn't any sort of proof or any sort of reason behind that. It's just crappy feelings and stuff that just gets passed on to the next generation. And that's, we need to like change that, I guess, a little bit and not, teach your kids positive, good things and not, teach them hateful things, right? Okay, so let's go on to verse 2. From the birth of a child, the world is foul. Excursions of a searching child should learn to take nothing personal. A parent hates to watch his baby's face taking his first immunization shots, but this is great. The child's introduction to suffering and pain understands without words, nothing is explained or rushed to the brain, looking up at his parent's face like, I thought you would protect me from this scary place. So, from birth, the world is bad, which I think is in reference to like the Bible and how, you're born with like original sin or because of original sin. And that's kind of like where like doing this bad thing, out comes a baby and like, it's such a good thing. And, as well, like birth itself is like a scary, traumatizing thing and could be, essentially a killer. It can give birth, but it can also take away life. It can take away the mother's life or it can take away the baby's life or both. And I think that that's also something that, you can't forget it, that it can kill the woman as well that's bearing this child. And I think also that kind of pain and that like force and that love, I think is also, a scary thing to go through. And that's basically their first exposure to the world is this through this pain, which is interesting when you think about that. So yeah, that's interesting. Then he kind of talks about a parent hate to see their child and feel the pain of like a needle and getting like getting your vaccinations, the immunization that he says. But and it's not fun and nobody wants to see their child suffering, but I mean, it's something that has to be done. And it makes a big difference. And so like, and the infant may never have experienced pain before, having the shot, having been like swaddled and, comforted and held and, gently put down and this and that, like they're babies, right? Like I assume that that's what most people are doing. They're obviously kept safe and like this is their first time when they're going to have to feel the pain of that. Like I think outside pain, I think that, obviously, you could have a kid that maybe feels pain kind of on the inside, like if something isn't right inside. But like, I think that's like their first exposure to somebody like afflicting pain onto them. But it's with a good purpose and with good intentions, even though it hurts, right? Getting your shots. And it's like, it's just interesting. He talks about that it's interesting to see their real reaction to it. And it's, probably their first reaction to actually being, actually feeling pain. And I guess that they're, the baby's just kind of looking up and wondering like, aren't you supposed to be my protector? How could you allow this? But, they have to, you have to do it. Get your shots if you don't. I'm not going to go into that whole debate. just get your shots. Why do you let them inject me? Who's going to know how these side effects is going to affect me? Who knew I would grow to meet presidents that respect me? If Starbucks is bought by Nestle, please don't arrest me. I need to use your restroom and I ain't buying no espresso. Soon enough, assume the cuffs, the position. Not new to us, since back on the bus, Sittin said, screw that bus. boycotted that bus out of business. The future's us, yet every citizen's in prison. So again, we kind of have the baby kind of talking, and like maybe it's like telepathy or telepathy, whatever that is. So he's just kind of saying like, why would you let this happen to me? Like, what are these side effects? Like, you don't know what it is. But the best side effect is that you're never going to get polio or smallpox or yellow fever, unless you don't get your shots. Anti-vaxxers. They tend to forget that. So let's not bring that back. Nas is like kind of self-reflecting on his success, and he got to meet the president and like get respect from like the president, from like I'm assuming President Obama, and probably not President Trump. I mean, maybe President Trump, I don't know, but I feel like probably very much not. The Starbucks reference is about a situation that happened, obviously, when two black guys went into Starbucks, and I think they were waiting for somebody there, and then one of them needed to use the bathroom, and I think they were told to buy a drink, and they were like, no, we just need to use the bathroom, but like we're waiting for someone, like, like it's a Starbucks, so why not? And anyways, it ended up resulting in a pretty shitty scene, and they got arrested, which he says, is kind of, oh, this discrimination and this like being arrested in this position that you're taking, like with your arms behind your back and, being handcuffed is not necessarily a new feature or staple in, the Black American communities. But, it's something that they're dealing with, and, that they've been dealing with for a long time. And they kind of, he brings it back to like the 50s and kind of like, being on the bus and like boycotting things. And, I think he's also kind of saying like, let's boycott Starbucks. Like, we don't need that. At the same time, when he says, boycotted that bus out of business. And I think that he's saying like, we could do that again. If we, we were strong and we were together and we were like, we changed things. I think, the Black people really did change a lot of things. And I think that it was great. Like, and they did it as peacefully as they could. And I think that's what they're saying. He's kind of saying now is like, look, we can do this again. Like, we don't, why are we all falling apart? Like, let's get together, let's band together and like make a difference. And then he says, the future's us, yet every citizen's in prison. And I just kind of saying like how could, like this future be theirs, could be the next generation, when an entire, not an entire, but like all, a majority of people, who are in jail have not white skin. Let's go with that. They're brown or black skinned, as the majority, unfortunately. And so they're silenced and they're not listened to. And how can that world be theirs when you've taken it away? I think is kind of what he's saying. So yeah, then we have the chorus again. If I had everything, I could change anything. If I change anything, I mean anything, I would change everything. Oh yeah. Yep. And verse 3, watch me as I walk through the folly, golly, New York to Saudi. In Italy, I'm Eduardo Ricari, but nasty the hustler, nasty like mustard gas, sulfur. And I could sell Alaska to Russia. No pressure. My first house, 11,000 square feet mansion. It was haunted by dead rich whites. Mad blank bought his crib to hang up pictures of Black Christ, circular driveways, black cars, and black ice. My second house, still in my 20s, illing with money. Chilled through my spine, spilling wine. It's funny. Did good for a did good for a staircase loiterer. Euphoria. What you saw when you seen a teen turn into a warrior. So Nas is traveling all over the world like it's nothing. Like he's just like living it up. He's, he can go anywhere, anytime, do whatever. And I think he also kind of pretends to be somebody else when he's traveling, or like maybe uses it as his name to check into hotels. Nas compares himself to mustard gas, which can be basically a terrible defense mechanism, or a good one, I guess, as well. He says that he can sell Alaska back to Russia with no problem. Like no one's gonna worry about that. Like he's got like enough power and like knows his business, I guess, or knows businesses, enough to kind of like calm everybody down. But like, imagine actually doing that. Like, I feel like Sarah Palin would flip. The first home is usually like kind of like a small fixer-upper, but his was a mansion that was haunted by dead white people. I guess he bought his home in a nice part of town where most, maybe more white people live. And he put up pictures of Black Jesus, I guess just to probably piss the ghosts off or, whatever, or, just doing it for himself. Like, why not? Okay. And he talks that he tells us that he has a circular driveway, which I think is like kind of like an easy come, easy go kind of situation. Like, that's what it's all about. And I think that he kind of talks about having like black cars and black ice. I think he's like, everything that I have is black because that's what I am, maybe. Or he's just talking about black cars and ice. Like, I feel like you don't want to drive on black ice, so maybe it makes it easier to get out in a circular driveway. I don't know. So yeah, anyways, so he's just kind of saying like, he bought his second house when he was, young again, still he was in his 20s, because he's just that rich, and he was, that rich at such a young age that he was able to buy mansions, more than one, when he was in his 20s. I think that's jolly, right? I mean, I think that's pretty cool. So he's thrilled, and he feels it like in his spine and in his, like, I guess his body. He just feels it all. And he's kind of like laughing about like messes and like, he spills wine. He's like, whatever. He's just kind of like laughing about it because it's like so like insignificant to him. Like, he spilled wine, like whatever. He can just buy a new house to replace it almost, Like, he's just like that rich. So he's also talks about that he used to like kind of like hang out on staircases and like, hang out with like his buddies and his pals and like, the neighborhood that he grew up in. But like, he's beyond that now. He doesn't just have to sit on like a staircase, which isn't necessarily like a fun place. Like, kids usually are in parks or like, after school programs or whatever, but he was just like hanging out on staircases. So I think that also kind of reflects on like his like upbringing and his childhood and like what he experienced. So he's kind of like running the show. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay. And then the rest of it is, did every 4th of July, busting in the sky. It was important to a guy who was mob-minded. Future Murcielago. Can't get that word. I feel like that might have been it. Driver to Lambos got average on me. I started liking the look. I ain't had no money. Yellow taxis, seats over Maybach seats. Just to remind me, just to inspire me to stay focused. It's a real sick society. Just because I got your support don't mean you're buying me. I'm buying back the land owned by the slave masters where my ancestors live. Just to say a rapper made a change. The pants sagger put plans in action to lay claim. The Pan-African made it happen. So he kind of celebrates the 4th of July, and I'm pretty sure this is going on 4th of July, so happy 4th of July to all my American fans. I will have the day off too because I work for an American company, so whoop whoop. So that will be tomorrow, which is today for you, I think. So he just kind of was saying that like he was involved in something on the 4th of July. I wasn't sure. I couldn't find what exactly that was. And like he talks about busting into the sky. So I'm imagining that he would be maybe shooting his gun at the same time as the fireworks would be going off, maybe like to kind of hide it or conceal like the sound of that happening. Not a suggestion, just saying that this is what he once did. Don't be doing that. Don't shoot your guns. But I'm not really sure about that. So he's been like mob-minded. So he's a tough guy and he's doing what he has to do. He's making moves. He's kind of looking back and seeing that the grind that he was doing, what he was the grinding that he did paid off. Obviously, he's got all these like fancy cars, among like other luxuries, and he's got everything. He's got mansions, whatever. And then I think sometimes he kind of like he puts certain things in to kind of like make himself humbler and like remind him of where he came from, and like if he hadn't had gone down this path, like maybe he would have ended up in a whole different life. Like he wouldn't have been successful, and he would have been poor, or involved in like violence, or in jail, or dead, or whatever that was going on. So he kind of talks to about that, and like kind of maybe doing some things on like not necessarily like the cheap, but like being resourceful, I think. And he also talks about like where he's from, kind of saying like yellow taxis, which is for me, like, I feel like everybody thinks of like New York City right away, that where they have the yellow taxis. And he's a New Yorker, so that makes sense. Or like a New York surrounding, I guess. It's hard. So yeah, that was it. So he also says it's hard to kind of stay on the grind and stay focused, because there's a lot of like distractions and like things that are trying to like pull you away, and people who are trying to pull you away from focusing on what you need to do. And I think that he also says that just because someone supports him in his moves doesn't mean he's going to be like your bitch, basically. Like he's not going to be owned by you. He's going to if you support him, that's fine, but he's not going to just drop everything because you gave him money, or gave him attention, or gave him whatever he needed. He's just saying like he's not going to be a slave to anybody. And I think then he kind of goes back and talking about buying the land that was worked by his like slave ancestors, and like the land that was owned by like the slave masters, and white people, I'm assuming, and that he kind of wants to go and own that land. He's going to go buy it. He's going to do something positive, I think, with that land, or like maybe make it like kind of like a historical site, or some sort of like a museum kind of thing, just to remind people like this is what happened. This is where my family was from. You can connect with this. Like this is like a farm, or whatever it was that was happening wherever this is. And he did talk about this, actually buying that land on like a PBS episode of Finding Your Roots from like a few years back. I think from 2014. Yeah, and I think that people were kind of judging him, and it's like you wouldn't necessarily expect like a rapper with like his like sagging jeans or whatever to be doing anything positive, or like so personal, and yet like community driven as well at the same time. And I think that you wouldn't necessarily say that, but then he talks about like how the Pan-Africans, which is basically like some sort of like worldwide movement that like kind of brings togetherness and like attention to kind of all the people who have like African heritage, and maybe were taken from Africa without their consent, and there were slaves that were taken and distributed all over the world. And so it's not just in the United States, or it's not just in one place. Like this is like a community of worldwide people that were taken and are like learning to live in a whole new place, and their ancestors obviously have to learn that as well. It's not necessarily where they came from. So I think it's basically them, that they're working together and they're trying to promote like positivity, and and I think that's kind of because of that point of view, that like kind of central like point of view, that like all these people, they don't have to feel like they're like isolated, or they're excluded, or they are like the other, that they can feel like even if they feel like all those things I just said, that they can feel like a community is there, because they're all kind of dealing with the same thing, and they have, but in different places, in different situations. Obviously, everyone's different, but I just thought that whole kind of idea, and that kind of togetherness and connectedness, to help each other build and be successful, and kind of have that support behind you of like this whole community of people who were from Africa. And I think that's pretty cool that he's kind of drawing that back to his roots. Anyways, I feel like I babbled on there for a minute. So yeah, I just think that, he's just saying like, positivity can come out of everything if we all work together. And we were, they were all in this together at one point, so why can't we do this again? I think that's what he's trying to say. And then we have, again, that was the end of, the verses. So then we have the pre-chorus again with Kanye West and The-Dream. You'll live and you'll learn. See, cause you've never been the same as anyone else. Don't think the same as everyone else. You'll live and you'll learn. See, you'll never conclude with anyone else. Don't think the same as everyone else. Again, and then we have the chorus. If I had everything, I could change anything. If I change anything, I mean anything, I would change everything. Oh yeah. And then the post-chorus. I'm not going to get into all these little choruses again. I feel like I've said enough about them. The post-chorus, which is again, and this is basically how the song concludes. This is The-Dream and Kanye West again. So dark boy, don't you cry. There's too much life left in those eyes. Don't you let that face go waterfall. Don't you learn to love your scars and all. Dark boy, don't you die. They're just human, let them lie. And just know your world and speak your truth and let them come to you. For you'll love in your heart. See, cause you've never been the same as anyone else. Don't think the same as everyone else. This is your call. There are no wrongs. See, you'll never conclude with anyone else. Don't think the same as everyone else. It's a pretty decent message. It goes in with that and it comes out with that. And it's just the whole thing is basically just a reminder that you're going to make your own choices. I guess that's it. And that you're special. Why not? Everyone's just doing whatever they have to do. So that's basically what it is. He's just saying to conclude the song. And again, he's aiming this specifically more for black kids and black boys. He says black boy. So he's relating back. Maybe he's even looking back at, all of them, Kanye and, NAS. Maybe they're looking back at, their lives and they're kind of saying if things could have been different, for me when I was a kid, then, I would have changed everything. If I could do anything for the next generation, I would do everything for the next generation. I would change everything and make everything better. I think that's kind of what they're trying to say as well, because they are powerful and rich and they kind of have that pull. And, he talks about having, the support of a president. And I think that's pretty cool as well, that he has friends in high places, which is great. And, just saying again, don't let the world wear you down. Be true to yourself and good things will come your way. If you're good and you're true, then yeah, good things will come your way, I guess. So, that you have you're special and that you're unique and that you have original ideas and, you just need to find a way to express those and find your passion and find your way of getting things out. I think is most important. Whether you write in a diary or whether you write songs or whether you paint or, do something creative with your time, even just a little bit here and there, then, you're going to have a way to kind of speak to people. And then it's a way to also reflect back on yourself. It's quite astounding what you can learn from your own creativity, I guess. So he kind of ends again, but he ends, and he also says that your ending, your conclusion will never be the same as anybody else's ending because nobody else is you, and that you are in charge of yourself and whatever you choose to do, and don't listen to what everybody else does or says because, you are in control. You are in the driver's seat. You can change the course of your life. If you are feeling a bit lost or, you're struggling in any sort of way or in some parts of your life, you can change. You have that power. If you don't like where your life is going, you can change that and that, to get onto a better path or look at your life where, if you're not doing very well, in certain areas, see where you can improve. See, okay, oh, maybe I wasn't behaving properly, or maybe I wasn't saying the right thing, or maybe I wasn't dressing a certain way, which I think, it's just, you're trying to do all the right things and, you're trying to conform to what I think society is trying to tell you to do, but you're trying to do your own thing. So it is, a difficult situation, a difficult place to find, where you belong. But, I think that's it. Nas is saying basically if he did it, you can do it. Because I mean, he grew up in like a poor area and like, you know, a difficult time with violence and drugs and everything. And he's saying like, if I can do it, you can do it. And Kanye's kind of saying the same thing, and the dream. So yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's quite a sad and slow, it's kind of an interesting sounding song, but there's like a lot to take away from it. And there's a lot of feelings and like emotions, I think, in it. I think that, you know, Nas is kind of like looking back, and I think, you know, all of them were kind of involved in the process and seeing what was going on. And I think that, you know, he was like, well, how can I leave a positive message, you know, for like the next generation? And I think that this is it. This is what he did. And I think that this is great. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, I guess. I think this is a great song. Like I said, go listen to it if you haven't listened to it in full. It's worth it. You'll probably save it and, you know, listen to it over and over again. I would like to thank our Patreons or our patrons. I'm never sure what to say. Lindell Williams and Mozart. And if you are interested in becoming a Patreon member as well, you get early access to all of our videos, and you get entered into raffle draws where you can, you know, put your name into any album that you, or any song or anything that you want us to do. And I think that you can kind of like pick and choose like who is going to be doing that review, and we'll do it. And then we pick someone from the raffle. Definitely check that out down below and support us. We would appreciate it, and so that we can buy better equipment and have better setup, have some good lighting, have some maybe like soundless fans. That'd be amazing right about now. I feel like I'm a sweaty mess. So I think that's about it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at YLF Bonnie. I'm over there. I'm grinding. I'm trying to see what I can do, but slowly but surely, we're getting more people. So I'd love to meet you and see you over there. That's about it for me for this week. I hope you have a great 4th of July, or had a great 4th of July. And yeah, that's it. Stay cool, guys. Bye.